Alright, so this one's kind of a tribute to you guys who hit me up and asked about Sony having a memory card like the VMU that we had discovered recently on the channel. And the answer to that is yes and no, not so much. So what I thought we would do is dig into and look at this thing, how it worked, where it was released, and why it was both similar and not so much to the Dreamcast VMU. So if you have a minute and hang out a while as we go into the history of the oddity that is the Sony Pocketstation. Now, the Sony Pocketstation was released in 1999, almost a year after the Dreamcast came out with its standard VMU, and either by accident or by design, came pretty close, if not all the way, to what Sega had pioneered with their own memory card, in some ways at least. You see, they tried to advertise this as a memory card and a personal data assistant, which is kinda odd because the personal data assistants, or PDAs as they were called, were mostly precursors to the smartphone, and you'd have a lot of the functionality for a PC in the palm of your hand, with HP and most notably Palm having some of the best options in these. This would preclude that this would have had some sort of itinerary you could use on it, a list of contacts, etc. However, it did none of those things at all. What it did do, though, is operate in most ways like the Sega VMU, and both of which were likely based in some part off of Tamagotchi. I'm sure you guys remember those, and if you don't, let me refresh your memory on that a bit. You see, around this time, many people got very fixated on these small, inexpensive digital pets called Tamagotchis. You would play with them, feed them, etc., all on a tiny handheld device that looked a lot like a Pocketstation or a Sega VMU device. Think of it much like, well, cozy gaming on the go in the 90s. Honestly, many of the games reflected this, with small mini-games you could play on the go being downloaded to the units themselves, like, for instance, KO Adventure for Sonic Adventure, where you take care of your little KO creatures that you found in the main game, and games like Chocobo Adventure where you took care of chocobos. Many of them would have other games like boxing games or maybe small shooting games. None of these were spectacular, they were mostly meant to be convenient diversions that you could mess with without having something as big as a Game Boy or a Game Gear in your bag, which was a cool enough idea to make at least the Pocketstation sell out almost constantly in Japan when it launched. It was so popular there, in fact, that they really couldn't make enough of them to get them out of Japan and into the other markets they were aiming to target, those being Europe and the United States respectively. How did this thing differ from the VMU, ask? Well, that's a good question, and one we should look into. Frankly, the main differences between these two aren't that big. Both had a screen and both could download minigames to the unit to take with you on the go. Both would let you transfer files between the units, making them comparable in that respect as well. However, due to the PlayStation's design, there was no way to use the unit while you were playing the game. Basically, you couldn't display things like health data or stats from various teams and sports games because the memory card is plugged directly into the console, not the controller, which made the VMU a little bit more versatile device than the Pocketstation in this regard. The PlayStation unit was also lacking in the functionality in the arcade scene, most likely because Sony was never a driving force in the arcades and saw no need to invest in making it work there. It was also easier for Sega to supply theirs, as it was intended to be a primary part of the console, which means that they had the manufacturing to support having them in all the markets that they aimed their console at. However, what do you guys think of this one? Do you think this would have been something cool on its own in the States? Did any of you ever own one, and if so, how well did it work, and what minigames did you like on it? Do you wish something like this or the VMU came out today? Or maybe some connectivity with your phone for a neat minigame on the go? Let me know in the comments. While you're there, please leave this video a like, and if you haven't, consider following the channel. That helps me out a ton. Till we meet again though, have a great rest of your day, and happy gaming!